And this is a reminder of a story that allows a question to be asked again. And it's the story of that widow who had 7 children, the eldest of which was a boy of only 10 years old. His name was Reuben, and Reuben was unusual for his age. Not only had he taken on the role of being the head of the family, to go and work in the village carrying goods for people or cleaning up the marketplace after the traders had been there, but he was very devoted to his faith. And every evening before the Sabbath day, he would ensure that there was bread and wine and candles to be lit to celebrate that special day. But as it happened, he was in the marketplace one day when a messenger came by, and the messenger was looking for a family called Ben Israel. And as soon as Reuben heard this messenger making his inquiries, he said, "Oh, that's my family." So he took the messenger back to his house, and the messenger had a letter. And that letter was from a people in a far-off place, indicating that the brother of his father had died and left the family an inheritance. So when the mother read this letter, she was very joyful. But then she thought, "I have 7 children. How can I leave my children to go and collect this inheritance? It's a far, far distant place." And Reuben stepped forward and said, "I will go." His mother said, "But you're only 10 years old. How can you make such a dangerous journey as this over the deserts to this far off place?" Reuben said, "I will go." So they sold the few belongings that they had left to give to the leader of the caravan who would be making the journey to that place. But Reuben made a stipulation. He said to his mother, "You must ensure that the leader of the caravan will allow me to make my rituals on the evening of the Sabbath." So when the mother was bargaining with the leader of the caravan, he said, "Oh, we have to make that journey. It's very dangerous. We can't be stopping for such as this. If you wanted to do that, it would cost you more money." Well, the mother had no more money. But knowing the deep faith of her son, and knowing that he would stay with his faith, she sold her wedding ring to make the money to give to the leader of the caravan, to ensure that he would stop the caravan when it was time to prepare for the Sabbath. So Reuben set out on the journey. But, of course, it came to the evening before the Sabbath day, and Reuben went to the leader of the caravan and said, "Now we will stop so that the rituals can..." "What do you mean? I made no arrangement to do this," said the leader of the caravan. "But you promised," said Reuben. But the leader of the caravan insisted that he knew nothing about this. He had made no such bargains or arrangements. So Reuben said, "Then you must leave me here, because I must fulfill the obligations of my faith." So this is what happened. Reuben was left behind while the caravan proceeded on its way, and Reuben found himself in the vast desert spaces. But taking the accoutrements that were needed, his bread, his wine, his ritualistic scarf, and so he began the ritual required by his faith. He was trembling because he knew in the desert there were wild animals, and he was totally and completely alone. Then, in the distance, he saw the sand rising, coming towards him, and he was dearly afraid. When it came closer, he found that it was a great lion, and he waited, knowing and believing that he was going to be consumed. But instead of the lion attacking him, the lion neared by where he was kneeling and sat down and benignly watched as with shaking hands Reuben proceeded with the ritual that was needed for his faith. And the lion remained quietly there as the ritual was completed, and Reuben prepared to lay himself down for the night. But now Reuben felt completely safe, so he lay down and went into a deep and peaceful sleep. In the morning, when the sun rose up, the lion stood up and gave indication to Reuben that he should climb on its back. And so he did, and the lion bounded across the desert, and before long Reuben could see his caravan as they approached it. Of course, the leader of the caravan and those who were there were afraid when the lion came bounding up, and greatly shocked when they saw the young boy riding on the lion's back. The leader of the caravan was very apologetic, apologizing to Reuben, believing that he had some great power over the animals. So the lion with Reuben continued across the desert with the caravan until they arrived at their destination. The lion, with Reuben on its back, went down the city streets, and everyone ran, afraid, until they came to the place indicated by the letter that Reuben carried. The lion waited quietly outside while Reuben went in and presented the letter to the authorities that held the inheritance that was due to his family. Taking the bag of coins that was this inheritance, Reuben went out and again climbed on the lion's back. The lion bounded again across the desert, taking him back to the very gates of the city in which he lived. But when they arrived at the gates of the city, the lion indicated that it was time for Reuben to alight. And when he did, Reuben knew that it was time for the lion to leave. And so, with great gratefulness, he bowed with thankfulness to the lion as it turned and bounded off into the distance. Reuben took his inheritance, and of course his mother and siblings were greatly overjoyed to welcome him back, and they lived in comfort for the rest of their days. But Reuben knew that even though the lion had departed from him, that the lion was always with him. He kept his faith and the rituals required of that faith, but he knew that the lion was with him always. So the question is asked, where are we now? Where are we in this story? We can say we have no faith. We no longer need trust, pity, compassion, even love. And yet something remains unchanging, never leaving us. Like the lion, maybe we still have rituals. They're a part of the way of life. But they're not done with belief of any kind. Where are we now? What is this place of permanent impermanency? What is it that's unchanging in our lives as the movement of life brings constant change? Where and what is left when the lion departs from us?